If I could describe off in one word, it would be fascinating. In fact, that was the very reason why I even got into off in the first place. And as luck seemed to have it, roughly a month after I got into off was when its remaster dropped. And while it didn't uphold everything from the original, it still held up quite a lot along with just being a more polished game. And after seeing the original off and playing the new one, I quickly understood why it made as much of an impact as it did, along with why people saw it to be so special. Whether it be the art, music, story, horror or not, there is a lot here to love. But the thing that has intrigued me the most is its meta commentary. Despite being one of the original meta games and inspiring a lot of others which are much more well known, this catalyst still stands unique in its approach, especially how it treats you and your role in the story. It is so good that in my opinion it still rivals the ones it has inspired. So let's take a look at why that is. Before we start, how about a small synopsis for the people in the back? You play as, or more appropriately, guide the batter who has a mission to purify the world. Yeah, one important detail is that the batter is his own separate character from the player, who is merely helping them. After you get some help from the judge, you go through each abstract zone, collecting add-ons, which are your allies, fighting new enemies, do a few puzzles here and there, and eventually defeat the guardian of that zone, purifying it in the process. After you finally purify all 3 zones, you go to the room, and after a whole lot more weird, interesting, and funny encounters, enter the throne room and beat the queen. Finally, you walk down a hallway and enter this room, where... Usually metagames, or at least the ones you tend to think of, aren't subtle about your consequences. And the scene may make it seem like off isn't any different, but that's only kind of correct. Throughout the game there are, yes, several huge no-nos, but they also come in the form of distancing you from the game. Very rarely does this game do something like Undertale or Oneshot in trying to target you, the player. In fact, despite you being a character in off, you aren't treated with a lot of importance. A grand total of 4 people even know your name, and one of those just thinks you're some kind of chief inspector. And the game does firmly set the precedent that you aren't the batter and that this is his mission. Very rarely are you held accountable for your role in playing the game, and thus it's easy to overlook how these actions are just as much yours as they are the batter's. So when the judge finally does confront you, you realize how guilty you actually are. However, and luckily, this isn't the only time off tries to confront you about your actions. It's just that those happenings are a lot more subtle. Instead of being very overt or addressing you directly, off instead has moments where it removes your agency, leaving you to judge yourself and realize what you're doing on your own accord. Some examples of this are enemies not fighting you, also being seemingly killed by you, the guardians themselves in a way, and my favorite example, the Purified Zones. These are some of my favorite parts of the game. Instead of being the token Mortis Ghost creepiness, the Purified Zones are rather just unsettling. Everything feels so desolate, it's white, bleak, there's barely anything anymore. Nearly no NPCs are even around. The music that usually persists is now replaced by echoing voices, and you fight the same enemies over and over and over again. It all feels uncomfortable, but the best part, it's your choice to be here. And apart from the batter adding barely any narration, you are the only one here. This is all on you. You are the one who has ruined these areas. You are the one left to explore the messes that your narrative has taken you. You are the one who gets to suffer. Even if you were aware of your actions, the batter's mission seemed a whole lot better than any of these schmucks. But if killing them means this, is the mission really worth it? It is a complete opposition to you. So why should you even stay here? If it's so tough and tedious and doesn't even make you feel good, what's the point? Well, as weird as it may seem, these areas actually reward you in the form of high value loot, access to some hidden areas, and new boss fights. These reasons are just enough for you to stay in these monochrome monotonous zones and see just how badly you have ruined everything. Again, it may seem weird for a game to reward you for doing something like this, but this place still isn't easy. These areas are long, fights are tough, puzzles can be very tedious, and there are rarely any places which give you peace. And besides, doesn't that say something on its own? You are going through this obnoxious task over and over to get stronger, to defeat more things, and to see tiny little secret rooms. These enemies aren't stopping you, the long walking isn't stopping you. You continue to fight to get more items, all with the intent of eventually coming back to the main story to help the batter, who is a character I actually really want to talk more about. While there are a variety of things that got me into Off, like how fascinating it was, the batter was the one who first led the match. Additionally, throughout playing Off and after beating it, he still kept my interest because he's just a really cool character in a lot of ways. But I find him especially cool with his themes and role in the narrative. The batter can be used to represent a variety of meta things, but I think one of the most notable is the goal of the player. Throughout the game, your relationship with the batter is a little iffy. You start off being pretty alright with them, their goal seems to be the standard hero shtick, and while the word of purifying does sound iffy, the game's main antagonist being Ghost makes it seem more noble. However, your opinion on the batter starts to shift as you see more of their behavior. They are almost comedic with how unconversational they are, they have a very questionable thought process, and they can even be seen as borderline uncaring. Even if they are technically getting rid of evil things, that doesn't really make things feel any better, and speaking of, very quickly is his actual goal put into question. It's hard to even be optimistic about his intentions because he's just way too stoic. A good example of just how unsettling he can be is with Jafet. While the judge is terrified and dealing with some serious trauma, the batter just doesn't care. There is also the fact that, since the batter is used as a sponge to soak up blame for you, the game does challenge his reputation a lot. I even expect everyone to, at some point, have a feeling that he will be the reason Off will have a bad ending. But that doesn't mean that you are suddenly expecting how things will continue going south in their entirety. You keep playing this game and keep seeing more of the batter's personality. He doesn't care about much of anything and seems to have no time for questioning his own morality. He just has one goal, to purify the world, and it is a goal he is dedicated to completing. If it's evil, no matter what, it should be purified. If it's in the way, no matter what, it must be purified. If it means the purification of the world, no matter what, it will be purified. This is set firmly in the fight with Hugo, if you can even call it that. And while it may have been jarring and not fully expected, there were still enough signs for at least a part of you to be expecting this, so let me ask you something. Why do you continue playing Off? What is your goal? Well, it's to help the batter complete his mission, right? Yes, but doesn't that mean that by proxy, that goal is also your goal? And isn't purifying the world just beating the game? The batter certainly treats it as such. While the batter's stokedness is the reason Off works so well, it's also why he's a very unique protagonist. He doesn't feel joy in his task or anger when something conflicts with it. He's at most prideful and sometimes a tiny bit jovial, but those are stretches that come few and far between. There is probably a lot of lore reasons as to why that is, but from a storytelling perspective, it's because this place just doesn't matter to him. The people are almost always a one-note dialogue machine, and the world building is unique, yes, but it's not like there's a lot of options to look into it. And to you, isn't that more or less the same? Yeah, you may feel sad, disappointed, frustrated, but you still are more or less approaching the game with the same intent to beat it. Even with the optional content, it is done out of a want to just play the game. This idea carries through to the end, until the judge asks a question. Is that really an excuse? Is the goal of beating a game enough of a reason to do all of this? Beating bosses, purifying zones, purifying the entire world, and even beating a mother and child. Yeah, this is a game, but these characters aren't just one-note archetypes. Archetypes don't silently grieve the loss of their girlfriend. Archetypes don't go calling for their brother on top of rooftops, etc., etc. This is where the battle represents a different but still notable concept of what I'm going to call player indifference. Are these characters just video game characters? Is beating the game justification for the actions you do? And Off, weirdly enough, gives a two-part answer for you. One thing that many may find weird is the fact that Off has a canon ending. I mean, that just feels weird to say for a metagame, and especially for a game like Off to just have a clear ending. But I don't think this is the literal canon ending to the story. I think it more likely has a symbolic meaning. Siding with the batter is the canon ending because, like it or not, the batter's mentality is right. This is just a video game. Beating a game is a justification. You don't have to care about the games you play. But that doesn't mean that you can't either. Choosing to side with the judge shows that while this is still just a video game, you have all the right to treat it as more than that, to question your actions, and to see games as more than just something you can beat. You can choose to believe these characters are their own people. In the end though, no matter which option you choose, as the judge makes clear, doesn't matter. After all, in the end, you still played the same game. But if you still choose to side with the judge and treat the game as more than just a game, it rewards you in a small but meaningful way. Instead of just rolling to credits, the game gives you the time to grieve. Off is a game that just fascinates me. I love this game's art, music, humor, horror, and of course its meta commentary. But on top of it all, this game fascinates me with how it managed to stay relevant. Despite it being old, and despite it causing so many games that handles its meta ideas in a much more evolved way, it still has such a charm that is still so unique. And I'm happy that the remake allowed this aspect to be once again brought into the limelight, even if the community does unfairly hate it. More people can love this series and be inspired by its baseline meta premise that still does a great job. So, who knows, maybe some new cool meta games are now on the horizon, but who can say for certain? All I know is that I gotta go back 6 feet under, but I'll catch you guys later.
What a thrill. Sadness ends in gladness. Showers are not in vain. So if you want the rainbow, you must have a rain.